KREM 2 News begins now.
It's been a busy news week in Spokane and the rest of the inland Northwest. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for Week in Review. I'm Tim Pham. Here now is a look at some of the biggest news stories from this past week.
Well, the jury spent nearly 5 hours in deliberations today. They had to determine if prosecutors presented enough evidence to prove that Nathan Beal is responsible for the death of Andrew Bull. Tonight, they unanimously decided Beal is guilty of first-degree murder. But before reaching that verdict, attorneys had one last shot at convincing the jury of Beal's involvement in Bull's death. In closing arguments this morning, Spokane County Prosecutor Dale Nagy discussed all the evidence presented in the case. He reminded the jury that the shell casing found at the crime scene was fired from the same gun found in Beal's apartment. The string of more than a dozen surveillance video clips compiled by detectives is another major element in this case. The videos helped investigators identify the time of the gunshot and tracked the suspect's walking route to and from the crime scene in the downtown Spokane alley.
There's only one other person in that alley besides Mr. Bull when Mr. Bull was shot, and you saw pictures of the alley. It's a very small, narrow alley.
Defense attorney Stephanie Cady later told the jury she believes prosecutors did prove that Andrew Bull was shot and killed, but she says they did not prove it was Beal who committed the crime. She argues that's because they provided no evidence tying Beal to the crime scene or to the victim.
In everything that the state offered, they found no DNA at the scene belonging to Mr. Beal, nothing tying him to that alley, nothing. No blood on the firearm, no witness that identified Mr. Beal at the scene or even downtown ever.
For the jury to convict Beal of first-degree murder, they must unanimously agree his intent was premeditated. That intention was to kill Andrew, and the victim died because of the defendant's act. The jury also had the option to convict Beal with a lesser charge of second-degree murder, but ultimately they gave a verdict of guilty to first-degree murder. Andrew Bull's family has been in the courtroom every day of trial, and they were in the courtroom today when the verdict was read. Now, although they were emotional about the conclusion of this trial, they told me they are very happy the jury found Beal guilty of Andrew's murder. Reporting from Spokane County Courthouse, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Before this couple moved to Airway Heights, they lived right below Martin Egan in a Cheney apartment complex. The retired vet contacted us after seeing our report and told us what he heard, saw, and reported months before this little girl died. Alexander Kermoyarov was arrested in South Dakota last month along with his girlfriend Mandy Miller when authorities found the body of her 8-year-old adopted daughter in the back of a U-Haul trailer. The two are accused of killing the child and keeping her body inside this Airway Heights rental where they moved after leaving this Cheney apartment complex.
This is the apartment right here. They got evicted from here, and I never saw them after that until I saw them on the news.
Martin Egan lived right above them.
I never heard the kid cry. I never heard the child say anything.
But Egan says he did hear constant fighting.
She never said nothing. It was always him, and it was so loud. And what I heard loud bangs. And as soon as I heard something like maybe her getting thrown around, that's when I called the police.
7 times over the span of 8 months, Egan says.
A lot of time the police would show up and they would not answer the door. And the police told me if they did not hear anything inside, they cannot do anything.
Egan says he became even more concerned about the child when he saw how frail she looked.
I saw the mom and the daughter walking across the street, and the daughter looked really skinny, super skinny. So I called CPS to let them know what I saw, and the lady, after I got done talking, said there's nothing we can do about it.
Egan says he's lost sleep in the last few days hearing about the alleged child abuse and murder. He says detectives knocked on his door a few days ago to get a statement.
What I'm hoping is that they call me for a witness. That's what I'm hoping, because I want to see justice. I'd say, you are evil people. You're evil. How could you do that to a child?
Kermoryarov and Miller are scheduled to make their next court appearance next Tuesday. Their bonds were set at $1 million. In the studio, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Sophia Montalbano's first trip to Schweitzer was one she'll never forget. She says while she was skiing earlier this month, a coyote attacked her. 50-some-odd shots later, she's sitting down to tell me more about what happened on this mountain just a few weeks ago. Sophia Montalbano says she's been skiing all her life.
It's fun, something I grew up with.
But one run at Schweitzer Ski Resort scarred her in ways she never thought were possible.
It's just that's never something I ever thought would ever happen at a ski resort.
While she was skiing, she says a coyote attacked her.
So it appears behind me, and so I start trying to go straight down to the cat track as quick as I can. And it bites my leg, and then I turn around to hit it with my ski pole, and then I accidentally go into a tree well. And so then the coyote then starts going crazy on my wrist.
Montalbano was separated from her group and fought the coyote off until help arrived.
We managed to get it away, but it kept doubling back and trying to get us, which was crazy. And then I managed to unclip from my skis and climb out of the tree well, and then we kind of trudged through the snow, all while trying to hit it away with our poles because it kept trying to come back at us.
Following the attack, she received tetanus, rabies, and antibody shots.
I lost track after 40.
A Schweitzer spokesperson says wildlife is a part of the environment the mountain is in, but it's always important to keep your distance.
Sometimes these animals become habituated because people are feeding them. And so we really want to avoid those types of interactions and letting our wildlife here stay wild.
When you're out on a mountain like that, you're in coyote habitat. I mean, stuff like this, it can happen anywhere if you're out in the wild.
Despite the scary situation, she says a few scratches aren't enough to keep her from doing what she loves.
I mean, I've already gone skiing again. I'm never gonna not love skiing.
But now she says she'll ski and pay a bit more attention to what's in front of her and behind her. Idaho Fish and Game maintain coyote attacks are rare and that they have killed the coyote that attacked Montalbano. The animal is being kept for testing while the state agency works to capture other animals in the area. From Schweitzer Mountain, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
This is one of the posts that spurred many questions. In it, the author claims a woman was shopping at the Walmart in Airway Heights, and when she went back to her car, she found a piece of paper on the door handle. The post goes on to claim that police tested the paper and it was covered with fentanyl. So did this actually happen? Let's verify. Our sources are the Airway Heights Police Department, Walmart, and emergency room doctor Merdad Edesame. Airway Heights police responded to the claim on Facebook. In a post, the police department said, "Working in collaboration with Walmart management, our team found no record of the incident. Therefore, the information on the Facebook page is untrue and unfounded." Airway Heights police point out that fentanyl is one of the deadliest drugs on the market. Officers take precautions with illegal drugs, and anything questionable would be sent to the crime lab to be tested. Furthermore, while fentanyl can come in a patch form, the version that's available on the drug market is not absorbed through the skin.
Fentanyl is something that people do use illegally, actually, to overdose for recreational purposes. But this is not one of those things, and it's not one of those ways that you will overdose by grabbing a shopping cart or going to your car.
So we can verify claims about fentanyl found on a door handle in Airway Heights are false. If you have something you'd like me to verify, send me an email at verify@krem.com.
Well, the mayor is frustrated and disappointed. She says both sides put in a lot of time and effort into having these difficult conversations. On the other side, this group pushing for police reform say the meetings have been riddled with inequity and disrespect.
Following the death of George Floyd and a massive protest in downtown Spokane, city leaders started meeting with groups to discuss police reform. During the last 3 years, they've had 4 roundtable discussions, with a 5th scheduled today. Instead, talks ending on a bitter note this morning.
We are disappointed and frustrated to be talking to you about a disruption that we had today.
And we declined to further participate in roundtable discussions with the city of Spokane.
During 2 separate press conferences, city leaders and local activists said they're stepping away from the table.
You get tired of saying the same thing over and over and over. And nobody wants to listen because they don't want to hear it. Because if they admit that they've heard it, really heard it, then they have to do something.
Those demanding police reform say the meetings have been unproductive and claim city leaders never came to the table with an open mind and even asked people to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
People were very vulnerable in these conversations. And to think that somebody could walk out of that meeting and then go share that publicly, why would those people return to the round table?
Activists say there's also been no real progress.
After 3 long years, the policy proposals brought forth by Council President Beggs in 2020 have not moved forward.
However, Spokane City Council President Brian Beggs says that many of the 24 proposed police reforms have been completely or partially achieved. Mayor Woodward says the process hasn't been perfect and some roundtable discussions were delayed or postponed during the pandemic, and 2 facilitators encountered serious health problems.
To our community, we hear you. We hear that public safety is your top priority and that you expect us to find the right balance between evolving policing and keeping our community safe from the drug, property, and violent crime that is grinding in our city.
Now, moving forward, the mayor and police chief say they will continue these conversations at the state level. In the studio, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Well, you can see behind me what's left of this memorial for Kimberly Allen. This is the spot on East Sprague where Spokane Valley investigators say she was hit while crossing the road after buying her groceries. A bunch of roses, a candle stub.
I have too many pictures.
Photos. These are the simple things left behind after an enormous loss.
She always taught us the simple things and what to really hold on to in life and what really matters.
Simple things that are left for Kimberly Allen, who Spokane Valley police say was killed January 27th when she was hit while crossing East Sprague.
When we first heard that it was a hit and run, I think the anger, furiousness.
The family says they're sympathetic to the 16-year-old who police say was driving. Still, it's a mix of emotions.
As I heard, all I needed to hear, but just the picture I have in my mind.
What's left behind for her 4 children are images.
She's the one with shows up at the holidays and with everybody's matching outfit, telling you to look which way and every way for a picture.
Yeah, the little things were so important.
We used to joke and make fun of her at picture time, and now they're so important.
Important images meant to hold on to.
I think above anything, she was a mom and a grandma and a great-grandma.
The Spokane Valley Police Department is still investigating this hit and run, and we have learned through a newly filed search warrant that they've taken the suspect pickup and are looking for more evidence there. But at this time, no charges have been filed. Live in Spokane Valley, Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Today's court appearance didn't last very long, but it was just long enough for Ryan Van Pelt to be charged with first-degree murder and second-degree unlawful firearm possession, and for a judge to set his bond to $500,000. According to the Stevens County Sheriff's Office, the alleged homicide occurred on Saturday on Lewis Paris Road, and authorities believe Ryan Van Pelt is responsible.
I have reviewed the probable cause affidavit, and this seems to, the theory of the state would be a premeditated intentional murder. Is that it, counsel?
Yes, Your Honor.
The alleged crime happened on the same street where the city of Colville moved a homeless encampment to October 2022. Saturday, authorities say they identified the suspect's vehicle leaving the crime scene. Van Pelt has been in custody all weekend before appearing in district court Monday. Here, the state revealed the suspect's extensive criminal history and requested a $250,000 bond.
15 charged cases, 3 warrants have been issued in those cases. He has 6 prior convictions. That includes 2 prior convictions for unlawful possession of a firearm in the second degree.
The state also said the alleged crime occurred while Van Pelt was on pretrial release in another case. After hearing the request and considering the suspect's criminal history, the judge said $250,000 wasn't enough.
The probable cause affidavit reveals that he's transient. So without a demonstration that he does in fact have recent ties to the community, also based on the criminal history involving firearms and based on the nature of the charge. I'm going to set bond at $500,000.
We requested court documents to detail what led to the suspect's arrest, but the district court office told us nothing official has yet been filed. We have also put in a message to the city of Colville for a response to the alleged homicide. Van Pelt's next court appearance is scheduled for February 14th at 9 a.m. At this time, the Stevens County Sheriff's Office has not revealed the identity of the alleged victim. In Colville, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
We just learned less than a couple of hours ago that the remains found here were in fact human, and I've been here throughout the day watching people dig the ground to try and find more remains. Police say that a biological anthropologist was called in and confirmed that the remains are human. Police also confirmed that no foul play seems involved, and the remains are believed to be from the Nez Perce tribe, but police are still investigating on how long the remains might have been buried for.
We've had some calls like this before, but nothing where it turned into what it is now, where we've had anthropologists and things. Sometimes people will find a bone in a yard and we have someone come in, it's a dog bone or something. So this was definitely out of the norm for us, something we are not experts in. According to someone who worked on yesterday's excavation crew, the crew was digging around the bridge to make room for future construction. That's when the dig crew saw what they thought was a piece of old pipe in the soil. After further inspection, the crew found what looked to be a skull and bones at around waist deep and called police. I'm told police and investigators plan to be back out here again tomorrow, and the walking trail under the bridge will remain closed until the investigation is wrapped up. In Lewiston, Nathan Hun, KREM 2 News.
Last summer, the city of Spokane submitted a plan to the state on how it would get people out of the homeless encampment and into housing. While city leaders admit the execution of that plan wasn't perfect, today they applauded the significant progress seen at the encampment so far. Since the formation of this homeless encampment on WashDOT property, stakeholders including the city of Spokane, Jules Helping Hands, and state agencies have remained split on how to help the people living here and clear it out. But over the last week, lawsuits against each other have been dropped, and now it seems these stakeholders are starting to come to an understanding.
We just wanted to come and acknowledge that we have really moved into a new phase of changing the encampment and the right-of-way here.
Under the state's right-of-way initiative, the city of Spokane secured $25 million to work with community partners to move people off the encampment and into housing. This morning, Council President Brian Biggs acknowledged Jules Helping Hands, Empire Health, Chaz, and several other groups for their role in the progress already seen here.
All these groups have come together in a coordinated fashion, and that is what was new about this initiative. And so we've made it pretty far, but we still have at least 124 people to go. And I'm just focused on encouraging people to follow the plan that we have.
The city's acknowledgement came as somewhat of a surprise to founder of Jules Helping Hands, Julie Garcia.
I am hopeful that everything that was said here will continue on into the future because we're going to need these folks to come up with these solutions.
Looking to the immediate future, WashDOT is preparing to move the 2nd Avenue side of the camp's fence line inward. Spokesperson Ryan Overton says this is meant to visually show the community it's getting closer to decommissioning the camp.
Jules' staff has worked really hard to continually move people, shrink the footprint of the camp. So we're planning to move the fence, tentatively scheduled for Monday of next week, and it'll come in about 50 feet or so.
Everyone agrees there is still much more work to be done, and it even extends beyond the encampment. But progress is better achieved when the key players aren't split on this issue. Now, during the press conference today, I asked Council President Biggs if this gathering with stakeholders today meant they are all now on the same page with this issue. He told me they are mostly on the same page and are working on getting there. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
Well, this elementary school sits on Fairchild Air Force Base, but it's operated by the Medical Lake School District. The superintendent there says the school has been cleared from any wrongdoing. However, court documents say otherwise. We aren't naming the airman accused of sexually abusing a child because he hasn't been criminally charged. But Spokane County Sheriff's detectives did find probable cause to search his home. That search warrant obtained by KREM 2 shows that Child Protective Services received a report January 10th after a child revealed they had been sexually abused by another adult. The investigation was then assigned to the U.S. Air Force Office of Special Investigations, or OSI. The person who contacted CPS was interviewed and said she first learned of the alleged abuse in October and reported it to a secretary at Michael Anderson Elementary and asked to speak with a school counselor. According to court documents, the school said someone would contact her but failed to do so. Documents allege that staff were aware of the allegations for months, including a teacher who knew the child outside of school. The search warrant says, quote, neither the principal, the secretary, nor teachers at Michael Anderson Elementary reported the allegations to CPS or law enforcement. Under the RCW, all the involved are mandatory reporters of suspected child abuse. KREM 2 reached out to the school located on Fairchild Air Force Base and run by the Medical Lake School District. We later received a voicemail from Superintendent Tim Ames.
It was brought to my attention that you had called Michael Anderson Elementary looking into accusations that we failed to investigate or report a sexual abuse situation. This situation has been thoroughly investigated by the Office of Special Investigations, and that accusation was found inaccurate and untrue.
We checked with OSI to verify what the superintendent told us. They sent us this statement saying, quote, OSI is actively engaged in reviewing the details and findings in the original investigation as it relates to the current investigation efforts now. We are working closely with the Spokane County Sheriff's Office. Therefore, no new OSI investigative details can be released at this time, nor can we confirm statements and information given to you by others. The Washington State Department of Children, Youth, and Families says mandatory reporters, like educators, are required to report suspected abuse within 48 hours.
Our employees are well trained, understand completely that they have the responsibility to report any sexual abuse accusations.
And we will continue to follow this case, which is being investigated by both the Air Force and the Sheriff's Office.
I'm here outside Spokane Valley City Hall, where people first started noticing wall cracks inside this council chamber only a year after the building was completed.
And so some of the other deficiencies that we noticed, you can see here where drywall has been repaired.
When Spokane Valley's $14 million new City Hall was finished in 2017, it was meant to be a fresh start for city staff and council members. Emily Estes Cross says their staff couldn't have been more excited.
City Hall was in another space where there couldn't be any more growth. So in order to grow with the city, a larger facility was needed.
But it wasn't even a full year when staff started to notice that something was wrong.
You can actually see this back wall of council chambers is temporary.
Cracks were starting to form inside the council chamber, and the back wall was seen sinking into the ground. Not long after,
there were also issues with the ceiling, the roof, the attic, and those are being addressed as well.
Last week, the City Council unanimously approved funding for 2 contracts for building repairs. One is to investigate and uncover what repairs are needed, and the other is for construction management and project oversight. Repairs on the building are expected to begin sometime this spring.
The City Council last week awarded contracts to repair any of the defects that might be under the surface that we haven't seen yet.
In 2020, the City of Spokane Valley filed a lawsuit against the original construction company, Meridian Construction, to reimburse them for structural damages. The lawsuit is expected to go on trial on August 7th.
I think that everyone has been very patient and recognized that it's our responsibility to make sure that all items get repaired and that we're in a building that is operating to its fullest extent.
KREM 2 reached out to Meridian Construction for comment, but they have not responded. I'm told City Hall repairs will begin again sometime around spring, and that's when City Council meetings will be moved to a different space. In Spokane Valley, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Well, the hope for a new jail facility at this point will only come to fruition with support from Spokane County voters. And if it's approved, the new Regional Law and Justice Facility will likely be located behind the current jail. Now, Spokane County commissioners put a 0.2% sales tax increase on the November ballot to fund the new facility. If voters approve this tax increase, the county will need to take the following initial steps. First, hire a consultant who can assist staff with filing a conditional use permit. Then, file the application for that permit with the city of Spokane. Mike Sparber, Senior Director of Law and Justice, explained to commissioners why downtown is the #1 location for this facility.
It's most central location for all the services. It's next to the courts. It's next to, the main, Monroe Street and so forth for the law enforcement to get in.
Sparber says the conditional use permit for this facility is essential because this and an environmental analysis will help determine if the downtown location is even an option. He is also expecting conceptual designs of the facility by the end of March. Now, Sparber also told commissioners the new facility will likely consist of 2 buildings on the county campus. In addition to cells and beds, they would have classrooms for GED and therapeutic training. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
So this is a Stokes litter. This is what we bring a patient up in. Usually it is in 2 pieces together with send down to the ground, and then the medic assembles this on the ground. And this allows us to take a patient in any condition and use a tagline to bring them up the helicopter. I'm Captain Tyler Maurer. This is Lieutenant Aaron King and Sergeant Andy Ponce. We got the call on the morning of the 3rd. The leadership in our unit just let us know that there was a potential rescue. We went into work early. Initially, very little information. We just knew there was one individual up by Schweitzer Mountain. As soon as we had all the information we needed, we were able to take off and head that way. It was a snowmobiling incident, isolating event, whether the snowmobile got stuck or broke down, but he spent about 18 hours overnight out there with little food or water. It was us 3, an additional aircrew member, and then a medic as well. There was actually a ground team that was en route to their location the same time we were coming into plan. So they had about 3 members there with the patient who were able to provide initial care for him. They tried to get him out, but were unable to given his condition and the high levels of snow in that area. So it was on the backside of a slope, about 150-foot tall trees. So we utilized our hoist from about 150 feet to infill our medic on the ground. But once she was down there, she provided that initial care and assessment, and then we were able to hoist both of them out of there.
You'd put the patient in here, you put the straps inside.
Yeah, it definitely is a boost for the unit. That's something we train to regularly as far as what kind of weather we're pushing into and our hoist capabilities, our searching. Those are a lot of tools we practice, and so when the call comes, we're more than excited to go do the mission that we signed up for. And yeah, 708 for our unit since 1971 is the mark for this year. So.
Well, Black history is happening every single day, and that's especially true for one local woman that I got a chance to speak with. She's carving her own history and teaching local students about the hidden figures that are walking amongst them.
1, 2, 3, 4. Give 5, 6, 7, 8.
For Stephanie Courtney, uplifting the community she loves is a calling, one with pride.
There's 2 tiers in this. There's ones that are able to go like this.
Much of her work starts with reaching the youth that live in and around Spokane. That includes traveling into different high schools throughout the week, mentoring, coaching, and teaching students in the area about a popular form of Black art known as stepping.
1 sound, 1 beat, 1 voice.
When Stephanie moved to Spokane back in 1998, Black history isn't something she could feel being celebrated. There are moments that felt isolating, and that's something she doesn't want the current generation to endure.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4.
These step teams are a way of celebrating the multicultural populations that call Spokane home. Even more than that, a day of practice serves as a safe space, allowing students to authentically be themselves and grow with their peers.
Confidence! Yes! Let's do it again!
Stephanie's commitment to diversity goes way beyond stepping. It's the quiet moments in a local coffee shop where a brainstorming session can suddenly turn into ideas for her program, The Learning Project.
In the community, for the community, on the move with community, for sure.
One of her most recent goals that came into fruition is a children's book that highlights Black leaders in Spokane. Stephanie says this project she curated is a collaborative effort from the community to honor those who have had local impacts currently and in the past.
But yeah, we have a ton of different people from all different backgrounds that are in this book.
Since its release, the book Our Community Spokane has become available in the Wishing Tree and Spokane Public Libraries. For Stephanie, this represents a proud step she believes can offer a form of education for young people who live nearby.
And I think a lot of times when we think about representation, we think about it in one way, but there's so many ways that we can represent people and who they are.
During this Black History Month and throughout the year, Stephanie is showing us all how to celebrate every aspect, person, and tradition that makes Spokane a great community.
1, 2, 3.
Stephanie told me a lot of her work is inspired by her 2-year-old daughter. She's doing her best to make this world a better place for her in the future. Reporting on scene in downtown Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
At Discount Tire on North Division in Spokane, manager Derek Umauer says there is no debate. Winter tires give you better traction in the snow and ice.
Do winter tires make a difference versus other tires, maybe all-terrains, when you're driving in the winter?
Absolutely. Let's dig in. A viewer recently reached out to the KREM 2 Verify team to ask, please verify that winter tires make a difference over other tire types in the winter. Our sources to verify this are the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, a Consumer Reports comparison of winter tires versus all-season tires, and a report conducted by the Washington Department of Transportation and the State Transportation Center. The NHTSA puts it simply, winter tires are more effective than all-season tires in deep snow. The Consumer Reports comparison found that winter tires stop the same car roughly 20% faster than with all-season tires, and that when accelerating from 5 to 20 miles per hour on moderately packed snow, the winter tires outperform the all-season tires by nearly 30%. And in a lengthy study by WashDOT and the Washington Transportation Center, studded snow tires and studless snow tires outperformed all-season tires in nearly every comparison. One set of tests in Alaska found, quote, studless Blizzak tires offered the best traction performance, especially for braking on both packed snow and ice, in comparison to studded tires, which were second, and all-season tires, which were third.
Common misconception for tires is that you can get like an all-terrain or all-weather that's traction rated. That's going to deliver the same traction as a winter-based tire, but what winter tires do very well is that when it gets below 45 degrees, they remain flexible, where a lot of these all-weathers, all-terrains don't. So you lose that flexibility, takes away from your traction.
Aside from staying pliable in cold temperatures, Umhauer says the winter tires also have deeper tread and what's called siping, essentially little slits across the tread that give you even more traction in snow and ice.
So this is a really good example of your premium all-season tire, the Michelin Defender, versus the Bridgestone Blizzak. This tire is tremendously softer, and you can see the difference. Like this tire has sipes in it. It even has a very aggressive 3D sipe, where this tire has just way more.
So we can verify that winter tires give you more traction in snow and ice versus all-season or all-terrain tires. If you have something you'd like me to verify, send me an email at verify@krem.com.
This is what a typical street with short-term rentals looks like in Coeur d'Alene. The city says that there are more than 1,000 short-term rentals here, but more than 70% of them are illegal. Now the city is cracking down. Coeur d'Alene, a prime summer destination for people around the country, depends on short-term rentals like Airbnbs. Since 2017, the city has required short-term rental owners to pay for a permit, but many did not.
First thought that went through my mind when I read it was, oh gosh.
Now, in an effort to stop STRs that are illegal, the city has released a new proposal. Stacey Armstrong is a legal short-term rental owner, but she feels a proposal can stand in the way of some in-state property owners.
We are an economic contributor. We are not a bunch of out-of-state investors coming into town. In fact, most of us are locals that just own a second home and vacation rental it.
Now, only current permit owners can renew their permit. There will also be a fee increase from $84 to $180. Melissa Radford is a founder of Coeur d'Alene Vacation Alliance, a nonprofit that focuses on protecting STR owners' rights.
The things that they put in place were just entirely punitive. They were entirely negative towards how short-term rentals impact a community, and it wasn't honest at all.
One short-term rental owner says if people are forced to stop operating their STRs, they'll lose money as the price of houses go down.
It's going to flood the market with new homes. Market values of homes will go down, and that just doesn't help anybody. It just goes against your dream.
In a response to the proposal, the Alliance said, quote, "We trust the community of Coeur d'Alene to help safeguard our constitutionally protected right to rent." The city plans on presenting their proposal to the City Council on February 21st, but the Coeur d'Alene Vacation Alliance tells me they hope it doesn't have to get to that point. In Coeur d'Alene, Nathan Han, KREM 2 News.
An Eastern Washington alum just wrapped up production on his latest sci-fi comedy featuring stars like Joe McHale and Danny Trejo, all filmed right here in Spokane, Washington. Writer and director Stimson Sneed says he's proud of the place that helped him build his filmmaking craft, and he wouldn't want to make his movie anywhere else. Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox got its name as a 2021 short film, created in the mind of Stimson Sneed.
This bit here, I love this bit.
Now, Sneed is working to take that short to the big screen.
It is about what happens when a time traveler creates a time machine, goes back in time 1 minute, kills his younger self, and then nothing happens. What he just did means that he should not exist, and yet he somehow does. And so he spends the rest of the movie trying to figure out why this isn't breaking the universe.
The movie will include several recognizable actors, like Joe McHale and Danny Trejo, and other stars. You'll just have to wait and see.
I'm really excited for what we've made.
The Seattle native and Eastern Washington alum currently lives in Los Angeles, but he says he wanted to bring his movie back to a place he calls home.
Very nice guy who owns a couple local bars, who was remodeling a basement bar in downtown. He took a meeting with me the very next day. The place could not have been more cater-made to my needs and production needs, and we just went and did it. So for Spokane, it's like the community just seems to want to help. That whole process should have taken me weeks in LA. Would have been an exhausting process anywhere else in the country.
He says he hopes aspiring artists will see great filmmakers can come from the Inland Northwest.
You don't need to go to LA. Like maybe one day you need to go to LA, but at least for the immediate future, there is a huge amount in this community. Find it and dive in. Take it from me, the stuff in LA is only marginally better, and you're competing with 50 million other people for it.
Sneed is looking forward to bringing his sci-fi comedy to audiences across the country. He says this time travel movie will be like nothing you've ever seen. Sneed says the goal is to finish making the movie by the end of the year and get it on streaming services and in select theaters. In Spokane, Janelle Finch, KREM 2 News.
So I actually have one of the interactive boxes that Spokane Public School students are using to learn now. This is a whole new thing that they're using, and it's really cool. This one specifically teaches about energy. So they have all of these little tools. There's a bunch in here, but I'm only going to show you one part of it that teaches how energy works, specifically renewable energy. So you do the connecting of all the wires. The red goes to the red, and then the black goes to the black. And in the classroom, they actually had a fan blowing this. So I'm going to pretend to be the fan. This is our wind turbine, and this is what we're trying to give energy. So when you spin the wind turbine, it gets stuck. Then it starts spinning the fan, and there it goes. So it's pretty cool. They're literally learning how to make energy and how it works. And of course, they had a ton of fun in the classroom with this.
Give me all your energy.
So if you have a student in 2nd through 5th grade in the Spokane Public School District, they likely will or have already used one of these boxes for a lesson. The boxes are through a partnership with Gonzaga. So the university's Center for Climate Society and the Environment worked to create the boxes and put together lesson plans.
We're likely the first district in Washington state to provide hands-on science kits to every elementary school that focus on climate topics, not just science generally, but touch on these big ideas about renewable energy and the difference between weather and climate. And so it's a really big step. Eastern Washington is really starting to lead in this space of science education.
The elementary schools have their own sets of interactive boxes to use in the classroom, and Gonzaga actually has students come teach the 45-minute lessons in 4 to 8 different classrooms every week. Everything they teach is curriculum the students already are learning in their classrooms. The university says it's been great for the kids to interact with aspiring scientists and learn about higher education, and it's been great for the university students, some of which who have actually gone on to pursue environmental education. Now this box right here that I have is just one of many different boxes teaching all sorts of things about climate and the environment here specifically and on a bigger scale. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
It's great. It's not something that I gun for, but it's definitely nice to have recognition that you're doing something right. My name's Tony Brown. I'm the owner of Ruins Hunt, formerly the owner of Stella's and Ivan. It's been a hard 3 years for restaurants, so to get this sort of recognition is, I think, good for the city, obviously good for my restaurant. It's coming back. I feel like right before the pandemic, 2019 was my best year in restaurants, and I think there was a lot kind of percolating, kind of coming up, during that time, and then COVID obviously kind of squashed a lot of people's plans, I think, but it's coming back now. We lost a lot of the labor force, but it's, we're getting there. We're a medium-sized city. I mean, we're not huge, but we're not small. But we have a pretty close-knit community of chefs and cooks, and I think we made a list, and we have 100 former employees over 11 years, and it's fun to see like where they're all scattered around, different restaurants. It's kind of uncommon, I think, in a lot of cities. Like I could go down the street and ask my neighbor chef for a cup of sugar, like what you do with neighbors. I love what I do. I love cooking. I love creating things, and we change our menu every month, sometimes every day, sometimes every week. So yeah, I hope that this kind of makes people more aware of my restaurant, if not more aware of just the Spokane restaurant scene. That there's stuff happening on the other side of the mountain. A lot of times, the bigger cities, the Seattles and Portlands, they get a little bit more of the nod for these sorts of things, but there's stuff happening over here.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories in the past week in Spokane and the rest of the inland Northwest. For the most up-to-date news throughout the weekend, you can watch our very latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.